April 1st, 1945. The Japanese Empire is dying. Tokyo has been firebombed. Over 100,000 civilians are dead from a single night of bombing. The Philippines are lost. Iwo Jima is lost. The American fleet is approaching the home islands. Japan has perhaps weeks before American invasion forces land on Kyushu. Japan has perhaps months before American forces occupy Tokyo. Japan has two choices: surrender or continue fighting knowing that defeat is mathematically inevitable. Admiral Takejiro Onishi, Vice Admiral of the Imperial Japanese Navy, presents a proposal to the Japanese High Command. The proposal is radical. The proposal is desperate. The proposal is designed to reverse the mathematics of defeat through application of ultimate sacrifice. Onishi proposes Tokubetsu Kogeki Tai, Special Attack Corps. Western intelligence will later call this Kamikaze, the divine wind. The concept is brutally simple. A pilot boards an aircraft loaded with explosives. The pilot flies directly toward an American warship. The pilot crashes the aircraft into the warship. The warship is sunk or severely damaged. The pilot is dead. One pilot for one ship. The mathematics are stark. Japan has approximately 5,000 operational aircraft. The United States has approximately 100 capital ships and 300 smaller warships in the Pacific. If each Japanese aircraft can destroy one American warship, the American invasion becomes impossible. The mathematics suggest victory is possible through sacrifice. The mathematics of desperation. The proposal is accepted. The Japanese High Command authorizes the Tokutai program. By April 1st, 1945, the first volunteers are already arriving. Second Lieutenant Yoshio Matsuo is 21 years old. Matsuo has completed basic pilot training but has never flown in combat. Matsuo has logged approximately 100 hours of flying time. Matsuo has never engaged an enemy aircraft in aerial combat. Matsuo is a trainee, not a veteran. Matsuo is ideal for Kamikaze. Matsuo receives the news that he will participate in a special attack. Matsuo understands what this means. Matsuo will die. Matsuo will die flying toward American ships. Matsuo will die knowing that his death may or may not accomplish anything. But Matsuo accepts. Matsuo accepts because refusal is impossible. Matsuo accepts because he is Japanese. Matsuo accepts because the emperor has called for sacrifice. Matsuo accepts because honor demands it. Matsuo accepts because the alternative is capitulation, and capitulation is unthinkable. Matsuo writes a letter to his mother. I have accepted the opportunity to serve the emperor through a special attack. I will fly my aircraft toward the enemy. I will crash into their ships. I will destroy their warships. My death will serve the empire. My sacrifice will buy time for our nation to recover. By the time you read this letter, I will be with the ancestors, watching over Japan from heaven. Do not grieve. Rejoice that your son has achieved purpose in his death. Matsuo's aircraft is a Mitsubishi A6M0. The Zero was once the most feared fighter in the Pacific. The Zero was designed in 1939. The Zero was revolutionary at the time, fast, maneuverable, well-armed. But now, in 1945, the Zero is obsolete. American aircraft are faster. American aircraft are more heavily armed. American aircraft are more heavily armored. American pilots are more experienced. The Zero's advantages have been negated by American technological and tactical development. But the Zero is being converted for a new purpose. The guns are removed. The armor is removed. The weight is reduced. 350 kilograms of explosives are loaded into the fuselage. The Zero becomes not a fighter, but a bomb. The zero becomes a weapon of last resort. The zero becomes mathematics. On April 6, 1945, Matsuo sits in the cockpit of his modified Zero. The aircraft is fueled. The explosives are armed. The runway stretches before him. To his left, 42 other Zero aircraft sit on the tarmac. To his right, another 50 Kamikaze aircraft of various types. 120 aircraft total. 120 pilots. 120 men who know they will not return. The target is the American fleet approaching Okinawa. The distance is approximately 350 kilometers. The flight time is approximately 1 hour and 40 minutes at cruising speed. Matsuo calculates. In 1 hour and 40 minutes, his life as an independent organism will end. In 1 hour and 40 minutes, he will become a projectile. In 1 hour and 40 minutes, his consciousness will cease. The engines start. All 120 aircraft prepare for takeoff. The mathematics are being executed. The equation has been written. 120 Japanese pilots equals 120 American ships equals Japanese victory, or at least Japanese honor in defeat. Matsuo pushes the throttle forward. His Zero accelerates down the runway. The aircraft lifts off. He is airborne. He is on his final journey. He does not know that the mathematics are about to be rewritten by an American officer staring at a radar screen 100 kilometers away. April 6, 1945, 0900 hours. Lieutenant James Connolly stands before the radar display aboard the destroyer escort USS Laffey. Connolly is 27 years old. Connolly is from Massachusetts. Connolly has a wife and 2 children at home. Connolly's specialty is radar operation and fire control. Connolly is responsible for tracking enemy aircraft and guiding the ship's anti-aircraft weapons to targets. The radar is an SC-2 search radar with a maximum detection range of approximately 100 kilometers. The radar is state-of-the-art. The radar can detect individual aircraft at extreme ranges. The radar is a machine that sees what human eyes cannot see. At 0915 hours, the radar screen shows multiple contacts. Contacts at bearing 275 degrees, range 95 kilometers. The contacts are numerous. Connolly counts 47 separate contacts. Connolly understands what he is seeing. These are Japanese aircraft. These are not conventional fighter-bomber formations. This is something different. Connolly has seen intelligence reports about Japanese suicide aircraft. Connolly knows that the Japanese have begun flying aircraft directly into American ships. Connolly understands that he is seeing the first major kamikaze attack of Operation Kikusui, Operation Floating Chrysanthemum. Connolly immediately transmits the radar information to the Combat Information Center. The CIC officer receives the data and broadcasts the contact report to all ships in the task group. An air raid warning is issued. Fighter pilots aboard the escort carriers receive the alert. 22 F-6F Hellcat fighters begin launching from the carriers. The fighters will serve as the first line of defense. The fighters will attempt to intercept the kamikaze at extreme range, ideally 100 kilometers out, well before the kamikaze can approach the fleet. Matsuo is flying his Zero toward the American fleet. Matsuo is at 2,000 meters altitude. Matsuo is maintaining cruising speed of 380 kilometers per hour. Matsuo has been airborne for approximately 45 minutes. Matsuo has another 35 minutes of flight time before reaching the American fleet. Matsuo is watching the sky around him. Matsuo sees the other Japanese aircraft in formation. The formation is disciplined. The formation is moving toward the target with purpose. No one is attempting to escape. No one is attempting to turn back. Every pilot knows the mathematics. Every pilot knows that his survival probability is essentially 0. The question is not whether the pilot will survive. The question is whether the pilot's death will accomplish something meaningful. At approximately 920 hours, American Hellcat fighters appear at high altitude. The fighters have climbed to meet the Kamikaze at altitude. The Hellcats are traveling at 450 kilometers per hour. The Hellcats are well armed. The Hellcats are piloted by experienced combat aviators. The first Hellcat pilot, Lieutenant Commander David McCampbell, an ace with numerous aerial victories, opens fire on a Zero at 1,200 meters range. McCampbell's machine guns fire. The tracers are visible in the bright morning sky. The rounds strike the Zero. The Japanese pilot attempts to maneuver, but the Zero is now carrying 350 kilograms of explosives. The aircraft is no longer maneuverable. The aircraft is sluggish. The aircraft is designed to crash into a ship, not to engage in aerial combat. McCampbell's rounds strike repeatedly. The Zero catches fire. The aircraft becomes an uncontrolled fireball. The pilot dies instantly. One aircraft destroyed. One pilot killed. One contact removed from Connolly's radar screen. The battle develops over the next 10 minutes. Hellcats engage Kamikaze aircraft. Some Kamikaze are destroyed. Some Kamikaze escape the Hellcats' attacks. The mathematics begin to emerge. Of the 120 Kamikaze aircraft launched, approximately 47 are shot down by Hellcats during the intercept phase. Approximately 73 Kamikaze continue toward the fleet. Matsuo survives the initial intercept. His Zero is untouched. His explosives are intact. His death is still viable. He continues flying toward the target. At 0940 hours, the Kamikaze begin entering the fleet's defensive zone. The Kamikaze are now within range of the fleet's anti-aircraft weapons. Every ship in the American task group that has any air defense capability begins firing. The sky becomes filled with anti-aircraft fire. The shells explode around the incoming aircraft. Black smoke fills the sky. Tracer rounds crisscross the air. It is impossible to count how many shells are being fired. The rate of fire is unprecedented. Approximately 30 more Kamikaze are destroyed by anti-aircraft fire. Approximately 43 Kamikaze continue to press toward the ships. Matsuo sees the American ships now. The destroyers are maneuvering frantically. The smaller escort vessels are attempting to present their smallest profile to incoming aircraft. Matsuo identifies his target, an escort destroyer. Matsuo calculates his approach vector. Matsuo needs to reach the destroyer at sea level or at low altitude to ensure a fatal impact. Matsuo adjusts his altitude. Matsuo begins his final approach. Matsuo knows that he has perhaps 60 seconds remaining in his life. At 0958 hours, the first Kamikaze impact occurs. An aircraft strikes the destroyer USS Bathurst. The impact is catastrophic. The explosion tears through the ship's superstructure. Fires erupt. The ship is severely damaged. The ship will survive, but will require extensive repairs. 16 sailors are killed in the impact and resulting fires. The casualty count is remarkable not for its magnitude, but for the fact that it resulted from a single aircraft deliberately flown into the ship. Matsuo is now approaching the same destroyer. Matsuo is at approximately 200 meters altitude. Matsuo is approximately 3 kilometers away. The ship is clearly visible through his windscreen. The ship is small, but sufficient for his purpose. Matsuo places his hands on the control stick. Matsuo maintains his altitude and course. 3 kilometers becomes 2 kilometers. Matsuo sees American sailors visible on the deck. Matsuo understands that these are human beings. Matsuo also understands that these human beings are the enemy. Matsuo's mission is not to kill these specific sailors. Matsuo's mission is to accomplish a military objective, the destruction of an American warship. The fact that American sailors will die as a consequence is simply the mathematics of war. 2 kilometers becomes 1 kilometer. Matsuo is now close enough that he can see details of the ship. He can see the American flag. He can see the gun turrets. He can see the radar antenna rotating. He can see individual sailors running. Matsuo does not feel emotion. Matsuo feels clarity. His death is imminent. His death will accomplish something. His death will be meaningful. At 1,954 hours, Matsuo Zero crashes into the escort destroyer USS Newcomb. The impact occurs on the starboard side, midships. The explosion is violent. 350 kilograms of explosives detonate inside the ship's hull. The detonation tears a massive hole in the ship's side. The ship takes on water rapidly. The ship is mortally wounded. The crew begins abandoning ship. 43 sailors are killed. Matsuo is dead. His body is vaporized in the explosion. By 1000 hours, the first attack wave is complete. Results: approximately 120 Japanese aircraft launched. Approximately 73 reached the fleet area. Approximately 34 achieved direct hits on American ships. 3 American destroyers are sunk. 10 American ships are damaged. Casualties: approximately 400 American sailors are killed or severely wounded. Japanese losses: approximately 120 pilots are dead. 0% survival rate for Japanese pilots. 100% survival rate for Japanese aircraft. All aircraft are destroyed. The mathematics of the first wave are calculated. For every American ship destroyed, approximately 100 Japanese pilots are expended. For every American sailor killed, approximately 1 Japanese pilot has died. The exchange ratio is unfavorable for Japan. Japan has fewer pilots than America has ships. Japan has fewer pilots than America has sailors. The mathematics are catastrophic for Japan. But the attack has accomplished the strategic objective. American ships have been damaged. American sailors have been killed. American resolve has been tested. The Japanese have demonstrated a willingness to sacrifice that Americans did not anticipate. The mathematics have changed, but not in Japan's favor. The mathematics have changed in a direction that suggests Japan's eventual defeat will be even more catastrophic than previously calculated. Connolly watches his radar screen as the attack subsides. The contacts have all disappeared. All 120 points representing Japanese aircraft have been eliminated. Connolly counts how many were destroyed. 120. No aircraft escaped. No aircraft successfully returned. Every point on his screen represented a human being. Every disappearing point represented a death. Connolly has witnessed the death of 120 people through the abstraction of points on a radar screen. Connolly does not feel triumph. Connolly feels a growing sense of dread. If the Japanese are willing to send 120 pilots to their deaths to achieve minimal damage, what does that suggest about Japanese strategic thinking? What does that suggest about the intensity of the conflict that lies ahead? April 11, 1945. The American Navy has learned from the first Kamikaze attack. The learning process is rapid. The cost of learning is measured in damaged ships and dead sailors. Admiral Raymond Spruance, commanding the American fleet, orders the implementation of a comprehensive, multi-layered defensive system designed to defeat kamikaze attacks. The system is layered like an onion. Each layer is designed to eliminate kamikaze aircraft at progressively shorter ranges. The philosophy is simple. The farther from the fleet that kamikaze can be destroyed, the better. Layer 1. Long-range radar detection. At 100 kilometers, the SC-2 radar aboard American ships detects incoming kamikaze aircraft. Lieutenant Connolly, aboard USS Laffey, receives the radar data. The data is transmitted in real time to all American combat ships and to the Fighter Direction Center aboard the escort carriers. This is the eyes of the system. Without radar, the system cannot function. Layer 2. Fighter interception at extreme range. Once kamikaze aircraft are detected on radar, American F-6F Hellcat fighters are vectored toward them by fighter direction officers. The Hellcats climb to altitude and attempt to intercept kamikaze aircraft at ranges of 40 to 60 kilometers from the fleet. American pilots are trained and experienced. American pilots understand that suicide aircraft must be destroyed before they can reach the fleet. American pilots begin their attacks at extreme range, accepting the risk that they may not complete their interception before the kamikaze penetrate the fighter screen. Layer 3. Anti-aircraft weapons at medium range. At approximately 10 to 20 kilometers from the fleet, kamikaze aircraft enter the engagement envelope of the fleet's anti-aircraft weapons. Every American ship equipped with any anti-aircraft capability opens fire. The rate of fire is unprecedented in naval warfare. Destroyers with 5-inch anti-aircraft guns fire, cruisers with 8-inch and anti-aircraft guns fire, battleships with 16-inch and anti-aircraft guns fire, small escort vessels with machine guns fire. The volume of fire is so intense that it creates a wall of projectiles that incoming aircraft must penetrate. Layer 4. Close-range anti-aircraft defense. At less than 5 kilometers from the fleet, American sailors armed with machine guns and small arms open fire on any kamikaze aircraft that have penetrated all previous layers of defense. This layer is often ineffective. Aircraft moving at 400 kilometers per hour are difficult targets for handheld weapons, but it provides a psychological boost to the sailors who man these weapons. It provides the feeling that they are doing something to defend themselves. Layer 5. Maneuver and damage control. Ships attempt to evade incoming kamikaze by violent maneuvering. If evasion fails, damage control parties attempt to contain fires and flooding. This final layer is not designed to prevent impacts, but to minimize the damage caused by impacts that do occur. Connolly begins to understand his role in this system. Connolly's radar is the absolute foundation upon which everything else rests. If Connolly's radar fails, the Hellcats cannot be guided. If the Hellcats cannot intercept, the kamikaze will penetrate the fighter screen. If kamikaze penetrate to the fleet, the anti-aircraft weapons will face targets at close range and will be forced to engage targets that are already committed to crashing into ships. The radar is not simply one component of the system. The radar is the critical component. The radar determines whether the system will function or fail. On April 12th, the second major kamikaze attack occurs. Operation Kikusui-2. 185 Japanese aircraft are launched. Connolly's radar detects them at approximately 105 kilometers distance. Connolly begins tracking the contacts. Connolly counts the radar returns. 47 aircraft, 53 aircraft, 61 aircraft, 70 aircraft. The count continues to grow as additional aircraft are detected. Finally, the count stabilizes. 185 aircraft detected on radar. Fighter direction officers in the escort carrier task group receive the radar data. They begin vectoring Hellcat fighters toward the incoming kamikaze. 32 Hellcats are launched. The fighters climb toward the intercept point. The Hellcats have altitude advantage. The Hellcats are faster than kamikaze at high altitude. The Hellcats are beginning their attacks at extreme range. The first kamikaze are destroyed at approximately 40 kilometers from the fleet, then 50, then 60. The Hellcats continue to press their attacks, destroying aircraft at extreme ranges. By the time the kamikaze reach the point where anti-aircraft weapons can effectively engage, Approximately 120 aircraft have been destroyed. Approximately 65 kamikaze continue toward the fleet. The anti-aircraft fire begins. The noise is incredible. The brightness of the tracers creates a visual effect like daylight. The smoke from thousands of shells creates a cloud around the fleet. Shells explode at all altitudes. Some kamikaze are destroyed outright by anti-aircraft fire. Some kamikaze are damaged but continue flying toward their targets. Some kamikaze evade the anti-aircraft fire entirely. By the time the anti-aircraft engagement phase ends, approximately 50 more kamikaze have been destroyed. Approximately 15 kamikaze continue toward the ships. Results of the second attack. From 185 Japanese aircraft launched, 148 are destroyed before achieving impacts. Only 37 achieve direct hits on American ships. 6 American ships are severely damaged. 1 American ship is sunk. 37 sailors are killed. Compared to the first attack, the results are devastating for Japan. Compared to the first attack, American losses have been reduced from 40 to 1. The defensive system is working. Connolly analyzes the data. The radar allows Hellcats to be guided to intercept points that prevent the majority of kamikazes from reaching the fleet. The Hellcats allow anti-aircraft weapons to engage kamikazes that have already been weakened or damaged. The anti-aircraft weapons eliminate additional kamikazes before they can reach the fleet. The system is elegant. The system is devastating to kamikaze tactics. Connolly understands that he is not simply an operator of a radar set. Connolly understands that his radar is the foundation of a system that is killing Japanese pilots at a rate that Japan cannot sustain. Connolly does not feel satisfaction at this understanding. Connolly feels a growing sense of moral weight. Every radar contact represents a human being. Every human being that is eliminated based on Connolly's radar data is partially Connolly's responsibility. Connolly is not pulling triggers. Connolly is not firing weapons. But Connolly is enabling the system that is creating targets for weapons to fire upon. Connolly is the eyes of the killing system. Connolly sees death on his radar screen as points. But Connolly increasingly understands that each point represents something more than a blip on an electronic display. May 1945. The kamikaze attacks continue with relentless intensity. Operation Kikusui 3, Operation Kikusui 4, Operation Kikusui 5. Each operation launches fewer aircraft than the previous one. Each operation achieves fewer successful impacts than the previous one. The mathematics are becoming increasingly unfavorable for Japan. Young Japanese pilot, Lieutenant Kenji Nakamura, 20 years old, receives the order to participate in Operation Kikusui 3. Nakamura knows the statistics. Nakamura has watched the previous attacks. Nakamura understands that his probability of achieving a successful impact is less than 20%. Nakamura understands that his probability of being killed before reaching the target is more than 80%. But Nakamura also understands that refusal is impossible. Nakamura accepts the order. Nakamura prepares his aircraft. Nakamura believes that his death will serve the Emperor. Operation Kikusui 3 launches on April 16th. 165 kamikaze aircraft are launched. Connolly's radar detects them at 100 kilometers distance. The defensive system is now well practiced. The Hellcats know their interception procedures. The anti-aircraft crews are experienced. The system functions with mechanical precision. Radar vectoring, fighter interception, anti-aircraft engagement, coordinated destruction of incoming aircraft. Result of Kikusui 3. From 165 kamikaze launched, 125 are destroyed by various defensive layers. Only 40 aircraft achieve impacts. The success rate is approximately 24%. The previous attack had achieved approximately 20% success rate. The success rate is declining. Operation Kikusui-4 launches on April 22nd. 115 aircraft are launched. Success rate: approximately 22 aircraft achieve impacts. Success percentage: approximately 19%. Operation Kikusui-5 launches on May 3rd. 125 aircraft are launched. Success rate: approximately 10 aircraft achieve impacts. Success percentage: approximately 8%. The decline in success rate is dramatic. The defensive system is becoming more efficient with each attack. American pilots are gaining experience. American anti-aircraft crews are improving their marksmanship. The mathematics are turning decisively against Japan. Connolly analyzes the statistical data that is compiled by naval intelligence. The data shows a clear trend. Early April attacks, approximately 30% success rate. Mid-April attacks, approximately 20% success rate. Late April attacks, approximately 8% success rate. Early May attacks, approximately 5% success rate. If this trend continues, by mid-May, the success rate will approach 2 to 3%. By late May, the success rate could fall to 1% or lower. Nakamura completes his Kamikaze mission on May 4th as part of Operation Kikusui-5. Nakamura's Zero is intercepted by an American Hellcat at 60 kilometers distance from the fleet. The Hellcat pilot, Lieutenant David McCampbell, fires on Nakamura's aircraft at long range. Nakamura's Zero is struck by machine gun fire. Nakamura's aircraft is damaged. Nakamura attempts to continue toward the fleet, but his aircraft is losing altitude. McCampbell fires again. Nakamura's Zero catches fire. Nakamura ejects from the burning aircraft and parachutes toward the ocean. Nakamura will survive the ditching. Nakamura will be rescued by American naval vessels. Nakamura will spend the remainder of the war in an American prisoner of war camp. Nakamura's suicide mission fails not because he lacks courage, but because American technology intercepts him before he can reach his target. But Nakamura is the exception. Most kamikaze pilots do not survive their aircraft's destruction. Most kamikaze pilots die in their aircraft when the aircraft is shot down. Most kamikaze pilots become permanent participants in the mathematics of warfare. Most kamikaze pilots become data points in statistical calculations. Japan continues to launch kamikaze attacks, despite the declining success rates. Admiral Oniski, the architect of the kamikaze program, understands the mathematics. Oniski understands that the success rate is declining. Oniski understands that each wave of kamikaze is less effective than the previous wave. But Oniski believes that the continuation of kamikaze attacks serves a purpose beyond the immediate damage inflicted on American ships. The kamikaze attacks demonstrate Japanese determination. The kamikaze attacks demonstrate that Japan will not surrender. The kamikaze attacks inflict casualties on American sailors. Even if only 2 or 3 kamikaze per 100 achieve successful impacts, that still means American ships are sunk and American sailors are killed. The cumulative effect, Oniski believes, may eventually break American resolve. The American Navy understands this calculus as well. Admiral Spruance understands that, even though the success rate is declining, every successful kamikaze impact represents American casualties. Spruance understands that the American public is becoming aware of the kamikaze threat. Spruance understands that American public opinion could eventually shift toward a negotiated peace if American losses become too severe. Spruance therefore allocates additional resources to the defensive system: more radar equipment, more Hellcat fighters, more anti-aircraft ammunition, more repair ships. The American commitment to defeating kamikaze is total. Connolly sits at his radar display and tracks the mathematics of the aerial chess game. Each kamikaze attack provides data points. Each data point contributes to understanding the effectiveness of the defensive system. Each successful interception confirms that the system is functioning. Each kamikaze that achieves impact indicates a failure somewhere in the defensive layers. By late May, the success rate of kamikaze attacks has declined to approximately 2 to 3%. From 100 kamikaze launched, 2 or 3 achieve impacts. 97 or 98 are destroyed. The mathematics are now completely unfavorable for Japan. Japan is expending 100 pilots to achieve effects equivalent to 2 or 3 American ship strikes. Japan can sustain this attrition only briefly. Japan's pilot supply is running low. Japan's aircraft supply is running extremely low. Japan's fuel supply is nearly depleted. But Japan continues to launch kamikaze. Operation Kikusui 6, Operation Kikusui 7, Operation Kikusui 8. Each operation launches fewer aircraft than the previous one. Operation Kikusui 8 on June 3rd launches only 50 aircraft. The success rate? 1 aircraft achieves impact. 1 pilot out of 50 successfully reaches his target. The ratio is now 100 to 1. 100 Americans must deploy resources to kill 1 Japanese pilot. Connolly continues to see the radar contacts. Connolly continues to count the points. Connolly continues to watch them disappear from his screen as they are shot down. By late May, Connolly estimates that he has tracked approximately 1,900 kamikaze aircraft across his radar screen. Approximately 1,700 have been destroyed without achieving impacts. Approximately 200 have achieved impacts. The survival rate for kamikaze is approximately 10%. The survival rate means that approximately 200 families in Japan will eventually learn that their sons and brothers are dead. 200 families will receive notification that their loved ones died in suicide attacks. Connolly begins to experience psychological deterioration. He continues to perform his duties with mechanical efficiency, but internally, something is breaking. Connolly understands that each point on his radar represents a human being. Connolly understands that his radar is directing American fighters to intercept those human beings and kill them. Connolly is not firing the weapons that kill the Japanese pilots. But Connolly's eyes, the radar, are enabling the killing. Connolly is becoming a machine himself, a component of a larger system designed to produce death with maximum efficiency. Late May, Operation Kikusui 9. 150 aircraft launched. Success rate, 4 aircraft achieve impacts. 146 are destroyed. The mathematics continue to deteriorate for Japan. The mathematics continue to be devastating for individual Japanese pilots. Connolly stands before his radar display and counts the contacts one final time. The final major kamikaze attack. Operation Kikusui 10. 30 aircraft launched. All 30 are destroyed before achieving impacts. 0 success rate. Operation Kikusui 10 is a total failure. The Japanese kamikaze offensive has ended. By June 22, 1945, no additional kamikaze attacks occur. Japan has expended its kamikaze pilots. Japan has exhausted its aircraft resources. Japan has been mathematically defeated, not by maneuvers or tactics, but by simple attrition and American technological superiority. Final statistics of the Okinawa Kamikaze campaign. Approximately 1,900 kamikaze aircraft launched. Approximately 34 American ships sunk, or so heavily damaged that they are decommissioned. Approximately 4,900 American sailors killed. Approximately 1,900 Japanese pilots killed. The exchange ratio. 1 Japanese pilot equals 1/2 American ship equals 3 American sailors. The mathematics demonstrate that Japan achieved minimal strategic effect at catastrophic cost in pilot casualties. The mathematics demonstrate that technology defeated fanaticism. The mathematics demonstrate that radar, fighters, and anti-aircraft weapons defeated the human spirit and courage of Japanese pilots, who believed their deaths would save their nation. May 22, 1945. The Kamikaze offensive has lost all strategic coherence. Japan continues to launch attacks not because Japan believes the attacks will achieve victory, but because Japan cannot imagine surrender. The Japanese military culture has internalized the concept of death before dishonor. The Japanese military culture rejects surrender as an acceptable option. The Japanese military therefore continues to launch kamikaze attacks, even though the success rate has declined to near zero. The mathematics no longer matter. Honor has become more important than mathematics. Fanaticism has replaced rational calculation. The last series of kamikaze operations, Kikuzui 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, are characterized by declining numbers of aircraft and declining morale among Japanese pilots. Fewer pilots volunteer for kamikaze missions. Many Japanese pilots now believe that the kamikaze offensive has failed. Many Japanese pilots now believe that continued attacks will not alter the outcome of the war. But orders are orders. Pilots continue to fly. Pilots continue to die. Second Lieutenant Takashi Yamada is 19 years old. Yamada is the sole survivor of his flight training class of 23 pilots. The other 22 pilots have been killed in kamikaze missions. Yamada has participated in 4 kamikaze operations. 4 times Yamada has prepared to die. 4 times Yamada has climbed into his aircraft expecting not to return. 4 times Yamada has been ordered to crash into American ships. 4 times Yamada's aircraft has been damaged before reaching the target, or the attack has been called off, or Yamada has managed to return to base due to mechanical failure. On May 24th, Yamada receives orders to participate in Kikuzui 8. Yamada understands that the mathematics of this attack will be even worse than the previous attacks. Yamada understands that his probability of success is less than 5%. Yamada understands that his probability of death is greater than 95%. Yamada also understands something else. Yamada has begun to doubt the meaning of his death. Yamada has begun to question whether his sacrifice serves any purpose. Yamada is 19 years old. Yamada has lived a full life of merely 19 years. Yamada wishes to live longer. Yamada wishes to see Japan survive. But Yamada also understands that refusing orders is impossible. Yamada will fly. Yamada will likely die. Yamada's aircraft is prepared for the mission. The explosives are loaded. The radio is checked. The fuel tanks are filled. Everything is ready for Yamada's suicide. Yamada sits in the cockpit. Yamada reads a letter that he has written to his mother. By the time you receive this letter, I will have completed my final special attack mission. I will have crashed into an American warship. My death will serve the Emperor and the Empire. I ask that you not mourn my death. I ask that you celebrate my sacrifice. I ask that you remember that I died believing I was serving a noble cause. I do not ask that you believe this was the best choice. I ask only that you accept that it was my choice and my honor. Yamada has written this letter not because he believes it. Yamada has written this letter because he must maintain the fiction of willingness. Yamada has written this letter because the military system demands that every kamikaze pilot demonstrate commitment to his death. Yamada has written this letter because refusal would result in court-martial and execution. Yamada prepares for takeoff. Kikusui-8 launches on May 24th. 45 kamikaze aircraft are launched, 45 pilots, 45 potential deaths. Connolly's radar detects them at 110 kilometers distance. Connolly counts the contacts. 8, 12, 18, 25, 36, 43. The count stabilizes at 45 aircraft. Connolly watches the radar display with the detachment of someone who has seen this movie many times. The Hellcats are vectored to intercept. The Hellcats engage. The anti-aircraft weapons open fire. The mathematics begin to execute. Yamada is intercepted by a Hellcat at 70 kilometers distance from the fleet. The Hellcat pilot, Lieutenant William Lambrecht, fires at extreme range. Lambrecht's tracers streak toward Yamada's aircraft. Yamada attempts to evade, but his aircraft is loaded with explosives and is therefore sluggish. The evasion maneuvers are ineffective. Lambrecht's rounds strike Yamada's aircraft. Yamada's Zero is damaged. Yamada attempts to continue, but his engine is on fire. Yamada realizes that he cannot reach the American fleet. Yamada realizes that his mission has failed. Yamada has a choice: bail out and be captured, or crash his aircraft into the ocean and die without achieving anything. Yamada chooses to bail out. Yamada ejects from his burning aircraft. Yamada parachutes toward the ocean. Yamada will be rescued by American forces. Yamada will become a prisoner of war. Yamada will survive the war. Yamada will return to Japan. Yamada will live another 60 years. Yamada will die at the age of 79 in 1993. Yamada's sacrifice will achieve nothing. Yamada's mission will have been a failure. But Yamada is one of the rare exceptions. Of the 45 kamikaze launched on May 24th, only 4 achieve impacts on American ships. 39 are destroyed. 2 more crash in the ocean. 4 successful impacts from 45 aircraft. Success rate, approximately 9%. 1 American ship is sunk. 3 American ships are damaged. 17 American sailors are killed. 45 Japanese pilots are deployed to kill 17 Americans and sink 1 ship. The exchange ratio is catastrophic for Japan. The final kamikaze attacks occur in late May and early June. The numbers decline further. Operation Kikusui-9 launches 20 aircraft. Success rate: 1 aircraft achieves impact. Operation Kikusui-10 launches 15 aircraft. Success rate: 0 aircraft achieve impacts. All 15 kamikaze are destroyed without reaching the fleet. The final kamikaze attack achieves complete failure. Connolly watches his radar screen as the last kamikaze contacts disappear. All 15 are destroyed. No penetration, no impacts. The kamikaze offensive has ended not with a bang but with a whimper. The final attack is a complete failure. The mathematics of the war have been calculated. Japan has lost. Japan has expended approximately 1,900 pilots to achieve effects equivalent to damaging approximately 34 American ships. Japan has expended 1,900 lives to kill approximately 4,900 American sailors. Connolly calculates the final exchange rate. 1 Japanese kamikaze pilot equals approximately 0.5 American ships, equals approximately 2.5 American sailors. The mathematics are stark. The mathematics are devastating for Japan. The mathematics demonstrate that fanaticism cannot overcome technology. The mathematics demonstrate that courage cannot overcome radar, fighters, and anti-aircraft weapons. Connolly stands up from his radar display for the last time. The kamikaze offensive is over. Connolly has tracked approximately 1,900 kamikaze contacts across his radar screen over the past 3 months. Connolly has watched approximately 1,700 disappear from his screen as they were shot down. Connolly has seen approximately 200 achieve impacts. Connolly has become the embodiment of the defensive system. Connolly has become a machine that sees and enables death. Connolly's psychological state is deteriorating rapidly. Connolly has begun to experience severe insomnia. Connolly has begun to experience nightmares about radar contacts. Connolly has begun to experience guilt about his role in the destruction of 1,900 Japanese pilots. Connolly knows intellectually that he did not kill these pilots, but Connolly also knows that his radar enabled their deaths. Connolly's eyes have become the instrument of death. Connolly has become the seeing machine of a larger killing system. USS Laffey remains afloat despite being attacked by 22 kamikaze during May 18th. The ship takes 6 direct impacts. Multiple compartments flood. Fires rage throughout the ship. The ship's crew fights to save their vessel. The crew succeeds. USS Laffey survives. USS Laffey requires extensive repairs, but will eventually return to service. USS Laffey becomes a symbol of American naval resilience. But the real story of USS Laffey is the story of Connolly's radar, the radar that enabled the defensive system to protect the ship by destroying kamikaze before they could reach it. The final mathematics of the Okinawa kamikaze campaign are calculated and recorded. 1,900 Japanese aircraft launched. Approximately 1,700 destroyed without achieving impacts. Approximately 34 achieved direct impacts. Approximately 4,900 American sailors killed. Approximately 34 American ships sunk or heavily damaged. 1,900 Japanese pilots killed. The mathematics demonstrate a clear conclusion. Technology has defeated fanaticism. Radar has defeated kamikaze. The future of warfare will be determined by technology, not by courage or willingness to sacrifice. August 1945. Japan surrenders. The war ends. The kamikaze offensive has concluded. Operation Kikusui has been terminated. No more kamikaze attacks will occur. No more Japanese pilots will fly deliberately into American ships. No more mothers in Japan will receive telegrams informing them that their sons have died in suicide attacks. James Connolly returns home in 1946. Connolly receives military decorations. Connolly is recognized as a hero. Connolly is promoted to senior rank. Connolly is thanked for his service to his nation. But Connolly does not feel pride. Connolly does not feel satisfaction. Connolly feels a profound sense of dread and guilt. Connolly leaves the military in 1947. Connolly attempts to return to civilian life. Connolly becomes an engineer specializing in radar systems. Connolly's expertise is in demand. Connolly becomes wealthy. Connolly has a successful career. But Connolly's personal life collapses. Connolly's marriage fails. Connolly's relationships with friends deteriorate. Connolly experiences severe post-traumatic stress. Connolly experiences nightmares about radar screens. Connolly experiences flashbacks to the kamikaze attacks. In 1952, Connolly writes a private letter that he never sends to anyone. The letter states, "I have spent the past 7 years attempting to pretend that my role in the destruction of 1,900 Japanese pilots was somehow justified by military necessity. I have attempted to convince myself that the radar I operated served a legitimate purpose in defending American lives. I have attempted to accept that the mathematics of war, 1,900 Japanese deaths to prevent 4,900 American deaths, represents a favorable outcome. But I cannot accept this. I cannot accept that I have spent the past 7 years living with the blood of 1,900 people on my hands. I did not pull triggers. I did not fire cannons, but I enabled the system that killed 1,900 people. I provided the eyes through which 1,900 people were hunted and killed. I became a machine. I became a component of a larger system designed to produce death. And I cannot forgive myself for this. Connolly never mails this letter. Connolly puts it in a drawer and never looks at it again. But the sentiments in the letter drive Connolly's subsequent life choices. Connolly becomes an advocate for international peace. Connolly speaks at universities about the moral implications of military technology. Connolly writes papers about the ethics of radar-guided weapons. Connolly attempts to atone for his role in the destruction of 1,900 lives by advocating that such destruction should never again be necessary. Takashi Yamada survives the war. Yamada spends the remainder of 1945 in various Japanese military units, gradually being transferred away from combat operations as Japan's military infrastructure collapses. When Japan surrenders on August 15, 1945, Yamada is alive. Yamada is captured by American forces. Yamada is interrogated by military intelligence. Yamada provides information about Japanese kamikaze operations. Yamada is eventually repatriated to Japan in 1946. Yamada returns to his home city to find his mother still alive. His mother is elderly. His mother has aged dramatically during the war. Yamada's mother believes her son is dead. Yamada's mother receives Yamada's final letter in 1945, informing her of his participation in a special attack mission. Yamada's mother grieves for 1 year before learning that Yamada is alive. The reunion is emotionally complex. Yamada's mother is happy that her son lives. But Yamada's mother also experiences confusion and shame that Yamada did not die in honorable service to the emperor. Yamada spends the remainder of his life in relative obscurity. Yamada becomes a teacher. Yamada teaches mathematics. Yamada never speaks publicly about his experiences in the Kamikaze program, but Yamada writes a private journal in which he records his experiences. In the journal, Yamada writes, "I was 19 years old when I was ordered to die for the emperor. I accepted the order because refusal was impossible. I prepared multiple times to crash my aircraft into American ships. Each time I was damaged before reaching my target. Each time I survived. I should have died, but I did not die. 80,000 other Japanese pilots died. 1,900 kamikaze pilots died attempting the same mission I attempted. They achieved their purpose. I did not. I survived as a failure. I lived as a symbol of something that did not work. For 70 years I have lived with the knowledge that I was supposed to die, but did not." Yamada dies in 1993 at the age of 67. Yamada's journal is discovered by his daughter after his death. The journal is eventually published in Japan. The journal becomes a historical document that provides insight into the psychological experience of kamikaze pilots. Yamada's journal reveals that even young pilots who had been conditioned to believe that death in service to the emperor was honorable harbored doubts about the meaning of their sacrifice. Yamada's journal reveals that technology had rendered their sacrifice not only ineffective, but meaningless. Today, 80 years after the Kamikaze offensive, the historical narrative is well established. Kamikaze pilots are remembered in Japan as heroes who sacrificed themselves for their nation. Kamikaze pilots are remembered in the United States as symbols of Japanese fanaticism and desperation. The tactical results are clearly documented. 1,900 kamikaze pilots killed, approximately 4,900 American sailors, and sank approximately 34 ships. The exchange ratio was favorable to the United States, but devastating to Japan. But what is often forgotten is the moral component of the kamikaze offensive. The kamikaze offensive represented a profound mismatch between fanaticism and technology. Young men willing to die for a cause confronted a defensive system that could track them at 100 kilometers, intercept them at 60 kilometers, and destroy them at 10 kilometers. The technology was not designed specifically to defeat fanaticism. The technology was simply a natural development of military systems designed to defend against any aerial threat. But the technology proved devastatingly effective against fanaticism. James Connolly dies in 1987 at the age of 69. Before his death, Connolly writes a final statement. "I was the eyes of the system that killed 1,900 people. I spent the remainder of my life attempting to atone for this. I attempted to advocate for peace. I attempted to convince others that military technology should be developed only as a last resort. I attempted to demonstrate that technology divorced from morality becomes the instrument of catastrophe, but I never fully succeeded in atoning for my role in the destruction of 1,900 lives. I provided the eyes, the system provided the weapons. Together, we created a defensive apparatus that was so effective that it transformed kamikaze pilots from a strategic threat into a statistical anomaly. We transformed young men willing to die into dots on a radar screen. We transformed their sacrifice into mathematics. We transformed their death into an acceptable cost of war. This is my legacy. This is what I enabled. This is the story of the kamikaze offensive. This is the story of fanaticism defeated by technology. This is the story of 1,900 young men who believed their deaths would matter. This is the story of a defensive system so effective that it rendered their sacrifice mathematically irrelevant. This is the story of James Connolly, who provided the eyes through which this destruction occurred. This is the story of technology overcoming willingness to die. This is the story that demonstrates a fundamental truth about modern warfare. Courage is no longer sufficient. Willingness to sacrifice is no longer sufficient. In the age of radar, fighters, and anti-aircraft weapons, technology determines the outcome. The kamikaze pilots demonstrated legendary bravery. The kamikaze pilots demonstrated absolute willingness to die for their nation. The kamikaze pilots accomplished nothing. The dots on James Connolly's radar screen were young human beings, but they were also data points in a mathematical equation that predetermined their destruction. Technology won, fanaticism lost. Mathematics trumped everything else. This is the lesson that the kamikaze offensive teaches 80 years later. This is the warning that echoes across time. In war, the future belongs to machines, not to men.